Hey, China and Russia might try to push the envelope, no, as far as what they can do to try to undermine U.S. dominance, no,
Mhm.
current level of American dominance, no. But doing it militarily, I think, works against their
Interest.
own interests, no.
Oo.
The best way for them to actually um, change or to seek change no in the current order with the US as a dominant player no is actually through political means. And right now I have to say no President Trump is giving them all the cards, right? The kind of relationship that he has with Europe right now, no, with Canada, no, with his allies here in
Yes. In
in the
Asia. Oo.
Indo-Pacific region, no, it's not making or it's not creating stronger confidence, no, in the kind of order that the United States has to offer, right?
Mhm.
And in fact, one gets the impression that everybody wants to retain that order, no?
Mhm.
But it's the United States with it's Donald Trump that wants to change it, right?
Yes.
So parang ang
Oo.
ano mo ngayon ay okay, can we trust the Trump administration, no?
Yes.
So everything is in flux right now. So
Uh-huh.
kung tutuusin, if there's any danger to the current order, to the idea of de-escalating no tensions and issues right now, no, it's actually how the United States has been shaking up things, right?
Mhm.
The predictability of the previous the predictability of the pre-Trump,
Mm.
pre-MAGA
Oo.
US foreign policy, no, has now given way to something where, no, basically, the United States seems to be lashing out against everybody, right?
Mm.
So you're not really too sure anymore, no. Business as well as states, no, like the idea of predictability in how they conduct the relations, no, whether
Oo.
it's commercial or state to state, right?
Oo.
And the kind of uncertainty that's created by the foreign policy of the United States under Donald Trump, no, is not making anybody confident no about how things are actually going.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that there was a bit of a shift, no, between yung Trump when Trump ran for president, parang he was talking about, not wanting to go into war anymore, not
Yeah,
wanting to
yeah.
intervene in other countries, territories. In fact, he was medyo turning back against his move in 2017, I believe, to like withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. Parang he wanted to, be more tolerant of Iran holding nuclear weapons, and
That's
bigla
right.
na
Yeah.
lang he's going all out neocon on Israel, with
Yeah.
Israel rather, on Iran. What's why the shift? I mean, what's your theory about that? Like, what's the politics behind that shift? No, kasi
Alam mo,
if you're talking about his base, they don't want to get into war. A lot
yeah.
of Americans don't want to get into war anymore.
Um, if I knew the answer to that, no, then I think I could run for president somehow, no. Pero honestly speaking, part of the difficulty is that when Trump ran for president, no, there were expectations that he created, right?
Oo.
The expectations are of course domestic in
Yes.
terms of their origins, right? The
Oo.
idea is to well, the idea of making America great again is weird, really. No, kasi it's great in relation to other
Other
countries,
countries.
right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's great in that sense because of its engagement internationally. But what
Mm-hmm.
he's now saying is making America great again means seems to imply to disengage from
The
what its
world.
international commitments
Oo.
are, right? And pursue what are fundamentally domestic American issues, right? So
Mm-mm.
medyo nakakapagtaka lang kasi yung ano na yun because there are different interpretations no of what what that is, right?
Yes.
Um, I suspect that what he talks about in terms of the United States being taken advantage of by its friends, no, Europe, no, its allies, no, and so on, is something that others actually, or that many Americans who supported him, no, interpret as the United States actually disengaging, right, from its international commitments, and in
Yes.
disengaging, actually lessening the kinds of expenses, no, that the United States has actually been investing in the international order,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that includes things like the United Nations, different agencies, no, and obviously agencies that have actually been key to the United States being able to influence, no, global politics, no, what we refer to, no, as soft power, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
things like USAID and all of those things, no, parang ang ano ngayon is that for a number of Americans, no, the interpretation of what Donald Trump was saying during his campaigns, no, was to really, and so that includes the idea of not going to war anymore, right? To disengage from all of these conflicts, no? So
Yes.
parang ano talaga is balik tayo. Everything goes back to the United States, no? All of the expenses that have been made overseas, no? Parang ano babawasan natin 'yan, ano, so that it will be reinvested in the United States,
Oo.
no? The danger there, of course, is that means you're basically um, waiving all your claims not to global supremacy, to global leadership, you know. Pero
Siguro
hindi pa,
Trump realized
hindi
that and
ganon yung
he
ano
saw.
eh. Hindi
Oo.
ganon yung yung nagiging ano eh. Parang ang
Yeah.
impression mo is that when the United States speaks, the expectation is that everybody jumps, no, and say and does what it wants to do,
Oo.
what it wants you to do, right? But that's not how it works. If you disengage, then other countries will actually have to
Disconnect.
take up the slack, right?
Oo, yeah.
So
Makaka-vacuum yun.
yun yung isang problema ngayon, no? It's really more of how do you understand what Donald Trump was actually saying, right? Do you want the United States to be to remain the dominant power in the world, no? Because that means that you have to take on certain responsibilities, right? No? I mean, sorry,
Yes.
no, but the Spider-Man, ano, about great
Oo.
power having great responsibility, no, is
Oo.
real, is true when it comes to international relations.
I think Trump only wants the great power part.
Yun nga eh. Oo
Kasi
nga eh.
I'm seeing kasi a few weeks ago nag military parade siya on his birthday and all that. So I think he likes the power part. He wants the US to still look like a powerful country amidst others. But when it comes to the responsibility, siguro that's where he's like stepping back and all.
Oo, I think you're right on that one, no? Pero nga, the problem there is that you're going to need somebody who has a good read on the psychology of Donald Trump, no, to be able to make that kind of or to be able to verify those kinds of conclusions, right? Kasi
Mm.
ang isang ano mga dito is that um kaya nga if you think about it, no, countries in the Asia Pacific region, no, are concerned about the degree to which the United States might be committed, no, to the security of not just because of the way that he treats allies, no, but the way that Donald Trump actually deals with politics. It's transactional, right?
Mhm.
So you have people like, for instance, Rubio, no, as his Secretary of State, and Rubio has actually shown during his confirmation hearings, no, that to his credit, he knows about the region, right?
Yes. Yep.
He knows about the region, no, and he's clear that the danger to the security of the region and to the interest of the United States, no, is something that's related to, of course, the rise of China as a a great power.
Mm.
So andoon yung isang ano na yan,
Oo.
so which means
Okay.
that US interests lie geopolitically lies in being able to actually make sure that China doesn't um, advance its position as a dominant power in the region to the detriment of American interests, right? So
Yes.
klaro yung anong yon. The problem is that you might have people like Rubio, you might have people in the State Department or even the Defense Department, who are China hawks, if you
Yes.
look at things in that context, but Donald Trump, ang hirap sabihin that Donald Trump is himself a China hawk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simply because he likes doing deals. And this is how he makes deals, right? He
Yes.
starts them off by threatening, by telling the targeted country that look, you have to change your behavior, you have to actually deal with us, etc., etc.
Parang negosyante.
Pero in the end, yun yung ang what he is looking for is for that country to seek to make a deal with him. No, with
Mm.
him, not the United States, but with him, right?
Oo.
Ang problema niya is what if these countries don't,
Don't.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
China, for instance, despite all of the tariff wars, kaya nga, di ba, he's been accused of being taco, right?
Mm-mm.
Trump always chickens out because he threatens, but in the end, he's the one who actually
De-escalate.
de-escalates,
Oo.
no?
Yes.
So it's those kinds of things, na parang for many countries in the region, and that includes the Philippines, even as we talk about the United States as our closest long-standing strategic ally, at the back of our minds, we're really concerned about where is this alliance going to take us, and what kinds of guarantees can we actually rely on, if we talk about the alliance with the United States.
Mm. But it's an interesting style of Donald Trump though in terms of how he deals with other countries. Yung tipong I mean and honestly I kind of see the logic. You
Yeah.
leverage on the strength of the United States and how it's positioned above the rest of the world, and you use that to make threats, and then eventually get sort of quote unquote get what you want sometimes. No, parang wouldn't you notice that that's medyo different from how yung traditional diplomacy works? Well, how do you describe yung mga style ng previous presidents, or yung mga more traditional Washington insiders, in terms of how
Yeah.
they deal with other countries?
Well, kasi one of the factors that you have to take into consideration is that it's part of American strength, no? Its ability to mobilize, not
Mm-hmm.
only its resources but resources that can actually be provided by friends and allies, right?
Yes.
Malaking bagay yon as far as when we talk about American global leadership, its position of dominance, the idea of hegemony and all. Ang
Mm-hmm.
ang ano ang ano ng US diyan is that its ability to actually bring in allies, no?
Yes. Okay.
And whatever it is that they can carry with them, into whatever the situation is, whether it's military, diplomatic, economic, etc. Donald Trump has basically abandoned that, no?
Mm-hmm.
American
Yes.
strength in terms of its alliances, no? Donald Trump has basically turned that on its head, no?
Oo.
By looking at allies, no, not as countries, no, whose loyalty, whose friendship, no, you can actually rely on to back you up, no, but
Mm-hmm.
rather, no, suspiciously as countries who are actually taking advantage of the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the United States is no longer great because of all of these countries that have been cheating the US. right?
Oo.
Saying that they're friends but actually doing things that are harmful, right?
Yes.
Parang ganon yung naging rhetoric niya, ganon yung naging and um that parang ang isang ano dito is that that's a change, right? Previous administrations have always emphasized friends, allies, no? As a strength of US diplomacy, of US capacity uh, um, to influence global affairs, right? Um, the interesting thing is that on the strength of those statements, right, of those kinds of claims, Donald Trump has won the elections, which
Okay.
means that we're not just talking about Trump, right, and a merry band of MAGA politicians. No, we're talking about the United States, that there is a significant part of the US, no, of
Mm-hmm.
the US population, no, that believes in this, right?
Yes.
Or have actually bought into the kind of implications, no, that Donald Trump has actually voiced out, no, through his through the way that he actually deals with US allies, right? So parang ang ano mo ngayon doon is that um, you can't rely on allies now, no, because you basically push them away. Okay, so who do you
Who
call
do you go to?
when you
Oo.
have a problem, right? Or when
Yes.
you have the kinds of issues, you don't consult with them, right? So you bomb for though, no, who was the country that knew about it? Maybe Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, but the European allies, no, the closest allies of the United States since the Second World War, no, didn't know anything about it,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
right? So
Medyo
parang ang
nag-distance
ano
na.
mo ngayon dito is that so who is going to believe in the United States now? Kaya nga sinasabi na ngayon, even if it's not somebody from the MAGA side, no, who becomes president after Donald Trump's administration, no, the question there is things are not just going to go back to where they were pre-Trump,
Yes.
right? Because there's now that embedded idea that we just don't trust not just Donald Trump, we don't trust the United States anymore, right?
Yes.
You can't
Oo.
trust Americans, no, to make the kinds of decisions, no, that would actually be beneficial to the rest of the world, right?
Mm-mm.
Unfortunately, the United States has reached a point of dominance, no, where its political system, okay, and the consequences of that political system has implications for everybody. So,
Yes.
hindi tayo bumoboto sa US, pero kung ano man yung resulta ng US elections, may epekto sa atin.
Yes. Yep, yep. And I think that's very consequential for all these other countries kasi at the end of the day yung mga decisions ni Trump, they affect so many parts of the world because of how much the US has built influence in the world in the past few decades.
Yeah.
And then medyo nadadamay din yung credibility not just of the administration but also of the people because they chose this government. They chose that
Yeah.
government, 'di ba? So
Right.
it kind of reflects that okay, you chose people outsiders can be like, "Oh, you chose that government and that government is, being aggressive towards us. They're not as trustworthy." Therefore, pati mga Americans, yung perception ng world now is baka you're not as trustworthy anymore.
Yeah. Oh.
'Di ba? And I mean that's just one example. We've been talking about President Trump. We've been talking about how U.S. hegemony might be challenged because of this uh, a lot of instability in like U.S. foreign policy. And I think that's just one example, or that's just one example of a threat to what we call the rules-based international order.
Yep. Mm.
That system wherein countries can settle disputes through norms and rules and to not get given to force anymore. I mean, especially after World War II. So we have that instability in the U.S. Hey there, thanks for watching the highlights of the Hey Eiyo podcast. If you enjoyed, why don't you like this video and subscribe to my channel? You may also watch the full episode by clicking the clip in the middle.